Hello everybody. Welcome to part 2 of our Azure CI/CD. In the previous part 1, you noticed that we created a web application. We went and used the source control based on Git. And then we were able to check in our code from local on our machine into Azure DevOps. And we created two different kinds of pipelines. The first one is the build pipeline, where as soon as I check into Git, automatically it will trigger a build to make sure everything is working correctly, everything is compiling correctly. And after that, that will trigger automatically a pipeline for release. So the release pipeline will automatically get the changes after it finishes creating an artifact from the build pipeline. And it will end up, as you can see on the screen in here, will create a release pipeline for dev. And it will deploy it automatically into Azure for our Azure web app. And then once it finishes, it went ahead and created one for another environment for QA. And when it finishes, it created a third one for production as well. And I hope during this part 1, you have a pretty good understanding on how easy it is, to be honest with you, to move from build to release pipelines using multiple environments. And that worked really well for us. Great. Now, in this part 2, I want to focus on the approval system, because really it doesn't work like that in real life, where you actually deploy to dev, and once it finishes, it deploys to QA, and when it finishes, it goes to production. No, there are things that has to happen for this to be able to move from one stage to the other. Otherwise, if there are problems in dev, QA will get it anyway. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure somebody is responsible for approving the artifact or the stage, the deployment itself. And after that approval occurs, then the system can move on and move it to QA. And the same thing for production, because this is a big deal as well. So let's go ahead and get started and see how we can do that. First of all, right now I'm logged in as Lino at thetrainingboss.com. I don't want to make myself, of course, the approver of these things, so I will need to go ahead and, in the organization in Azure DevOps, to create maybe multiple people in my company that will be able to approve this. So let's go ahead and do that really quickly. First of all, I'm going to create on Azure DevOps all the way at the top. And you will notice at the bottom it says Organization Settings. Let's click on that. And then in the Organization Settings, the third one down called Users. Let's click on that Users. And notice I have two different users in here. I have myself, and I have another one also myself, but a different email account from Gmail that I use for testing. The important thing for you is you will click on Add Users, and it will add multiple people in your organization, okay? And even outside of your organization as well, as long as you give them permission to be able to play inside of your Azure DevOps tenant in here. So I'm going to do it based on these two. But remember, the one I'm in right now is the first one that has the LT in red. But the other one in blue, this one is not part of this yet. Okay, so now that I have these two, let's go back to our Azure DevOps, and I'm going to open up the Lino Gates test that we created in part 1. And what I would like to do now is to go ahead into the pipelines. Let's go to the release pipelines. And I would like to set something. Let's click on Edit in here. And remember, we have the 3 different release pipelines for dev, QA, and production. Notice there is something in here called pre-deployment condition. That means when the artifact of the build pipeline is trying to move this into dev, or actually create this into dev, I would like to stop it. I do not want this to take place unless somebody approves this first. So let's click on this pre-deployment condition. And notice in here there is something called pre-deployment approvals. Very important. By default, it will be disabled. I'm going to enable this in here, and then it's going to ask me who is supposed to approve this guy. So I'm going to click in here, and let's start with the word the training. All right, there it is. See, thetrainingboss@gmail.com. That is not the account I'm in right now. So I'm going to click on this one. The timeout, this is an important thing for you to understand as well. I'm going to give you 30 days, which is pretty much a long time. Maybe sometimes it's 30 hours or 24 hours will be more than enough. But you have the ability to change that in hours or even in minutes if you want to. The 3 approval policies in here are great. We used to only have 2, but Azure DevOps added a third one. The one in the middle is pretty new, which is great. Let me explain these 3. The first one, the user requesting a release or deployment should not approve it. I'm not gonna go ahead and check it just because this is a demo, but I'll tell you what, this is an important piece. You do not want Lino at thetrainingboss.com, the person that was logged in right now, to be also an approver on my own work. In real life, you do not want to do that. You want to have a second eye on things. So it always has to be a different person than you that will approve something to moving from one stage to the other, okay? But I'm going to leave it like that so that I can actually override and I can actually move it forward as well. All right. The next one is revalidate identity of approver before completing the approval. This has to do with MFA, the multi-factor authentication. You want to make sure the person who's actually approving this is who they say they are. So usually you're going to get something on your SMS, or you're going to have like Microsoft Authenticator or something. You'll have to prove who you are before you can move forward from one to the other. I'm going to turn this off as well, but again, that's a good idea to have. And this is a new one that was added in Azure DevOps. The third one, skip approval if the same approver approved the previous stage. I'm also not going to check this one, because if I'm doing this with dev, QA, and production, and I already approved one, maybe I want to make the same person from QA to, if you approve dev, you can also approve QA. And that's putting a lot of trust really in the process. I usually do not turn on the third one, but the first two are very important. Even though I'm not going to turn them on, I would recommend for you to do it as well. Okay, I'm going to click on save in here. You can put a comment. You can put Lino is supposed to approve this. That's fine. We'll say okay. And once you do that, right now, if I even make a change in the source code and check it in, it will build, but it will not move to dev until Lino, myself, I will go ahead and approve my own work. Let's go ahead and do that with QA. I'm going to say QA, for instance, in here. And in this time, we'll go ahead and turn also pre-deployment. That means dev will not be able to move to QA until we have somebody in here. Let's go ahead and use the other one as well. Yeah, the training boss. Oops. The training boss, which is a different person than who I am right now. We'll leave everything open in here. We'll say save as well, and we'll say okay. Excellent. And now I'm going to do the third one, but production is a big deal. I don't want just one person to approve it. I want 2 or 3 people to actually approve this work. So let's click on the pre-deployment for this one. I'm going to say enable the pre-deployment. We'll leave it in here, but here I'm going to add 2 people. Look what happens to the UI when I enter more than one person. We'll say Lino, oops, if I can spell my name correctly. There is the Lino at the training boss. That's the person I am right now, but I'm going to enter also the training boss at Gmail, and look what the user interface will do. It will add an approval order. Do you want this in sequence? That means I have to approve it first, and then the Gmail account user will have to approve it second, or in any order, or any one user. So I can actually, in case somebody's on vacation or whatever, I can enter 4 or 5 names. As long as one of them approves it, we are done. So that would be the any one user, okay? In my case in here, I'm going to say in any order. It's okay, whether the Gmail account or my training boss account will approve this. Both of them don't have to happen, so not one of them. So the first 2, every single email address in the approvers list in here have to approve it. But the only one that is different is any one user. If you have even 5 email address, one of them will automatically approve the whole process, and we will move forward. And I'm going to leave everything else turned off in here, but it's a good idea to have, like I said, the first 2. The requester cannot be the approver, and also MFA to make sure you are who you said you are. I'm going to say save this, and we'll say okay there. And now let's go ahead and try to make a change. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code one more time. Remember this. I'm going to go to pages. Let's open up indexing. We'll say welcome Lino to CI/CD approval process. So that will be my word. So I'm going to say Control S to save this. And then in Visual Studio Code, we'll click on the source control. We'll say approval. All right. So now when I say commit and push, we'll wait a few seconds, and that will trigger automatically the build pipeline first, okay? That will require no approval process. But once it's done, it will definitely, to move it to the stage of development, to deploy it to Azure Web App for development, that will not move forward. So let me go ahead and open up the pipeline in here for dev. And there it is. You see it started already. So if I open it up, we can take a look at the stage, and you will notice it's in the restore phase right now, and it will give it a couple of seconds, hopefully maybe like 30 seconds or so. It's a very small app, but when it's done, it will tell us that it's trying to move it to another stage, which is in development. And we will come back here once this is done to show you what's going to happen in the release pipeline at this point. This is just to show you during the run, after 33 seconds, it's doing a lot of restores. I will come back here to show you some other things. Oh, there you go, the build started. So that was not going to take a long time. It's a very small ASP.NET Core app. Excellent, and it finished. All right, perfect. So the build has been successful. Let's go back now into the releases and see what's happening over there. You see now the release number 2 here happening right now. Dev is not moving, all right? There is the dev, then QA and prod. In the previous one, dev would have been done by now, but if I put my cursor over dev, it will show you something. Approval pending on Lino Tadros. That's not Lino Tadros me that is logged in right now. That's the other guy coming in from Gmail. So let me show you what I'm gonna do. Just of course, because of caching and how Chrome works and so on, I'm gonna actually come in here and use the new incognito window. And I'm gonna log in as the Gmail account that I showed you. So there it is. Let me go ahead and bring it up in here. So now I'm logged in into the system as the Gmail account that I showed you from an incognito window. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and open up the Lino Gates test again. And notice if I go to the pipelines and I'm gonna go ahead and click on the releases, notice there is the dev. And if I click on it, say approval pending on you. So you will have to actually be the one that will accept this. So we'll click on that in here, and then this will come up. And now we can again say, good to go. Alrighty. And I'm gonna say approve. You are the only approvers, okay? Remember also, I can reassign from here to somebody else. Maybe I'm on vacation. Also because I said you don't have to be the approver and the requester at the same time. I could have gone into my own account from the training boss and I can say override. I can say override because maybe the gentleman from Gmail account is not available for this week. So we can actually push for override. The one thing that you really need to remember, folks, even if I'm the admin, and if I click on that checkbox says the requester cannot be the approver, even if I'm the admin, I cannot override that setting. It has to be somebody else. I tried it and it did not work. It says, nope. I don't care who you are or what privilege you have in the system. You are the requester. I'm not going to let you be the approver. So it's not something that you can override even if you are way up in the permission in the system. Okay, I'm going to say approve in there. And now this is approved. I'm going to close it down and look what happens in here. Now approval pending on you. Give it a few seconds and it will start. You'll see this thing start spinning. Now, yeah, there you go. It started spinning and is in progress. And now let me minimize this for a second. If I come back to the regular one, the one that I started from, the training boss one, you will notice that dev is happening. And if we wait a few seconds, in here it will actually deploy and I will be able to go to my website in Azure and we will see the word approver. Notice now is when it finished, it's deployed. Great. So now I can actually go into the QA one. But I can. It says pending approval on Lino Tadros, which is your Gmail account itself. Great. Let me bring it back up again one more time. And we'll bring it up in here. We are in the incognito window for the Gmail account. We'll click on the QA. And again, it's the same person that has to approve it. We'll say, go to QA. All right. And we'll say approve. And that will take care of that. And now we'll wait a few seconds and the progress will continue. And even if I actually minimize this, go back to my main machine, you will notice QA started. It's in progress. So now that this will be deployed in a couple of, hopefully 10-15 seconds max, you will notice that the production is very different story. The production, I asked for 2 people, and it doesn't have to be in sequence. It could be in any order. But it will not move until both of them actually end up doing this. So let's wait. Okay, it's done. And there is production. Notice here it says approval pending on you and the Gmail account for Lino Tadros as well. And you can have more than that if you would like as well. So that means I can approve it myself in here. We'll click on that. And notice there are 2. 2 are pending. Okay, so I can come in here for this one. And I can actually say go to production. Alrighty. And I'm going to say approve. If I said the requester cannot be the approver, when I click on that, it will tell me you do not have the process, you cannot be an approver on this process, and it will actually deny me. So, and you'll be stuck at this point. You'll have to add or reassign to somebody else. Otherwise, this will never work, okay? But this will not trigger. See, if I close this, this will still be like this forever because there is one more person that has to approve this. So I'm gonna go back in here to my incognito window. We'll click on production. And now as this is the second person from the Gmail, we'll say second approver. And we'll say approve, and we are done. Now at this point, this will let me minimize this so I can show it to you from the main process in here. In a few seconds, production will be working as well, and we will be in a pretty good shape as well. So let me go ahead and open up actually the Azure website to show you that all of them automatically got triggered. I will do that in a second. All right, they're all finished. Let me bring in my portal. I'm going to bring my portal. Maybe I'll dock it right here next to it so we can see it easily. These are my 3 different projects. Let's go ahead and, for instance, and go to the development one first. If I'll say, let's browse this after the deployment occurred, we'll say browse. And you'll notice this one will have approval process. It means it did work for dev. I'm going to close this. We'll go again one more time to, let's go to straight to the production. You have to take my word for the QA one, but if I browse the production one, it will also say the approval process all the way at the top in here. Oops, what did I do? Let's go ahead and say browse. All right, there you go, approval process. That means all my 3 different environments got the code and they moved based on approval process from one to the other. So in summary, I just want to remind everybody that you can actually set pre-deployment condition approval system. In the next part 3 and the final part, I wanted to show you also how to deal with gates, which is even more than approval. And you can combine the 2 together as well. But this can actually be a very, very important piece. For instance, in my dev, I can actually say, not only do I want you to receive everything from the artifact of the build pipeline, but I also want you to run a Selenium smoke test, for instance, to make sure that nothing is dead on arrival. And then we will approve it. And then somebody, maybe a manager, will approve it, and then it will move to QA. An email will go automatically to everybody in the QA team saying there's a build ready for you in QA. But it will not move to production. We're going to give you maybe 2 or 3 days to run all your tests, functional tests, more than just a smoke test, to go deep into testing. And then the manager from QA will come and click on the approve, put a comment saying we ran all our automated testing and manual testing as well, and everything is successful. Approve, poof, it goes to production after the customer says it's okay to do that. Does that make sense? So hopefully this was useful to you, and I'll see you in the final part 3 to show you about gates in really soon. Thank you.